Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Or thank you for joining us and welcome. I'm Trent Lobsher here from Educational Technology, and with me is.
Hi, everyone. Dana Rubenstein, also from the Educational Technology Department. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
We are so happy to have you here, especially those of you that are STPBC teachers. Joining after teaching all day and then jumping right back into professional development. But the good news is, you don't even have to wear shoes. So get comfy, take your shoes off, and just let's see what we can learn today. So first, we're going to get into a couple of housekeeping things as per usual. So we do want to remind everyone that the session is being recorded. So if you join late, or if you want to go over something in deeper detail that we mentioned early on and you want to rewatch the episode, no worries. As soon as the recording is done, it'll be posted to our YouTube channel. And we also want to encourage you to share out and extend the conversation with us. And please feel free to share what you've learned after the session, or what you're learning, and any other comments or ideas that you might have about organizing Google Classroom on Twitter using the hashtag ETPBCPD. And make sure that you tag the Educational Technology Department. And you can tweet us at EdTechPBC. So don't forget about that. Now we also have this here, our YouTube channel, where you're viewing us live. Please make sure that you like this video and you subscribe. We're up to over 4,000 subscribers, which is just mind blowing. We're so thankful for all the followers that we've gained and that have allowed us to share information with you over the last few months. And because this is live, you can participate in the live chat that is going on to the right. Nope, I did it wrong. I pointed in the wrong direction. To the right, to the right. Sorry, my screen is flipped. And you can chat there. There's also moderators there to help answer your questions. You'll see the moderators have wrenches next to their names that you can use to communicate. So I think with that, we're ready to get started. Okay, so what do you need to join into the live stream conversation today? Well, you need a basic understanding of Google Classroom, just kind of what it is and how it works a little bit. But you don't need to be an expert. And what we're going to do today is kind of focus on ways to streamline and fine tune some of those things that you are already doing in your classroom. So that being said, I do want to point you in the direction of some great supplementary videos by a couple of our other EdTech team members. John Shoemaker did this really awesome Google Classroom 101 video that you can find on our playlist. That is a really great starting point. And then there's also an advanced Google Classroom live stream that was recorded by Tasha Burke-Peart and Dana Rubenstein, who's with me here today. So if you need to, you can go and check those out and come back when you're ready for some of this. I don't think that we're going to leave anybody behind, but just so you know that those resources are available on our YouTube page right here. And remember, once again, you can rewatch any of our posted videos since they save to our channel right after the stream concludes. All right. Now let's get into the content. So we've got a cool little graphic here that I'm going to show you. Hey, there it is. Look at that. Oh, I got to turn a little bit. And we've got here 5 tips for organizing your Google Classroom. So this is what we're going to cover today. But there is kind of an interactive element to this, because part of today's live stream focuses on what students see when you post things. What does it look like to be in the student view? And we're going to break down a couple of those things. So to that end, we do have a Google Classroom that's set up. If you're a teacher in the Palm Beach County School District domain, you'll be able to join that Google Classroom. If you're not in our domain, you unfortunately won't be able to, but I'll still be sharing my screen and showing you what that classroom looks like. And Dana will also be sharing her screen to show you what the student view looks like. But if you would like to, you are encouraged to go ahead and join in on our Google Classroom. I'll post up that code. There it is. AIJLW5L. Again, you have to be a teacher in the Palm Beach County School District to join. So while you're getting logged in, we're going to go over just a quick preview of those 5 tips that we're going to be discussing today. All right. So number one, The first tip that we're going to be going over is to teach the layout of your Google Classroom. Right? There's lots of things that we teach in terms of our content areas, but we want to teach the layout of our Google Classroom. Tip number 2, we want to make sure that we are using topics to assign all work. Anything that a student is expected to turn in, make sure that you give it a topic in your Google Classroom. Number 3, use due dates for every single assignment. If there's something that a student needs to do, a must do, a task of anything, make sure that you give that assignment a due date. Number 4, use the tabs and the very nifty to review list. It's a feature here in Google Classroom. Use those to track assignments. And then number 5, use private and class comments to provide feedback. And this is kind of a maybe optimize your workflow kind of tip. So I don't know how about you, but I'm thrilled. I'm excited. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's get into it. And tip number 1, teach the layout of your Google Classroom to students. So what I have here is my Google Classroom that I'm going to be sharing with you. That this is in the this is the teacher view. We're going to show you the student view later. And if you would like, you can again, here's the code. I'll put it up on my screen. If you're watching this either live or in the future, you decide you want to check this out, you can use that to look at the student views. So I've set up this Google Classroom as a kind of a sandbox. Let's play around and clarify the way things look for students. I will tell you right off the gate. This right out of the gate. This is a stream that's focused on showing how to organize your classroom. But I have not yet organized this classroom. This classroom looks like a complete mess, right? I mean, as messy as something a classroom can look. And I'm gonna, in real time, I'm gonna organize it. I'm gonna tidy it up. I'm gonna show you what it looks like at the end, so you can kind of have that comparison. So the first tip there, make sure that you're teaching the layout of your Google Classroom. And the reason I'm saying that is this. First day of school, in a normal everyday, a normal situation where the students come in, you run through those routines and procedures, and they're, as effective educators, that there's some groundwork that needs to be laid for our students. How do I sharpen my pencil? How do I ask to use the restroom? When can I get out of my seat? I have a question. Those are all things that you cover day one, right? So it makes sense to spend time in your Google Classroom explaining to your students and explicitly teaching them things about how to, where to check for their assigned work, or how to turn in assignments. Or if I have a question about an assignment, what's the easiest way to contact my teacher? Some kids will automatically send you an email. Some will, figure out a way to post a comment someplace that you'll never, ever look. And realize that day that they can post comments there. So those are really important things to go over day one. So you want to explicitly teach those routines and procedures. And what's fun too is you can even use Google Classroom to create some really fun games. I know that when you teach routines and procedures in a brick and mortar setting, you can do things like send the kids on a scavenger hunt, or have them, look through their syllabus and play a game of bingo. There's lots of fun ways to make that an interactive thing that doesn't necessarily seem like it's a chore and something that needs to be done, even though it really does need to be done. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now you might say, well, the school year's already started, so we missed the boat. Listen, we know that things might change day to day, right? That there's a student in our room today that may not be there tomorrow. You can infuse these routines and procedures and really use any point throughout the year to kind of reinforce them for your students. At the end of the first 9 weeks, the end of the first semester, after a long 3-day weekend, there's really organic ways that you can put this in without it seeming forced. So if you feel like you missed the boat, you did not. All right. So explicitly teach those routines and procedures. As far as the routine and procedures, what I would suggest, here's a suggestion for teaching the layout of your Google Classroom, is to make sure that you've turned email notifications on for yourself, and show your students how to turn email notifications on for themselves. Now, I know in our elementary grades, students may not necessarily be checking their email every day, and that's understandable. You put a kindergartner in front of a Chromebook, tell them to check their email. Well, what's going to happen? I don't know, but let me know, because that sounds funny. So when you've got your classroom open, something that you can do to make sure that you're getting emailed for major events that happen in your Google Classroom is to actually get out of your Google Classroom and go to your main classroom page that shows all of your classes. Right now, there's a settings feature that's kind of hidden if you don't know about it. See, you won't see a settings gear anywhere on this page. But if you click the three bars up in the top left that some of us like to refer to as the hamburger, and then you scroll all the way down the bottom, past your classes, past the classes you're enrolled in, all the way down to where it says settings, and then you click that gear, it'll bring you to all of your notification settings, right? So this first top part up here is for students that are enrolled in. I'm sorry, you as a student when you're enrolled in classes, But as a student, I want to see when people comment on my posts. I want to see when people mention me. I want to see private comments that my teacher gives me on my work. This one's really important because if you start using comments to give feedback on particular assignments, like we'll talk about later, the student won't or might not see that notification if this is off. So it's really important that you turn that slider on. Now, this is in part a student view. This classes that you're enrolled in shows you what notifications the students have options. So work and posts from teachers. When an assignment gets posted, if these are on, they'll get a notification right away. When grades get returned, and you're getting feedback, right? Invitations to join classes as a student, and then due date reminders of work. This is hugely important because if they have this on and they say, "Oh, well, I didn't know I had an assignment due," it's not going to fly if you know that you went through how to turn those notifications on. So there's also some options for you as the teacher. Classes that you teach, do you want to get notified when a student submits a late assignment, if they resubmit an assignment, and so on and so forth. So check out what settings you have there to make sure that you're staying in the loop. I know that some of us don't like being bombarded with emails and our inbox being flooded, but honestly, when it comes to communicating and keeping track of monitoring your students, it's a really good, easy way to just get automatic updates. It's awesome. If we were nothing but brick and mortar and somebody said, "I'll send you an email every day when one of your students doesn't submit an assignment," oh, okay, all right, I don't even have to do anything. So, something to make your life a little bit easier. So I'm going to go back to my main class here, my main class page. All right, the last thing that we're going to go over is talking about the difference here. I'm sorry, with this tip, teaching the layout of your classroom to students, is explain to your students the difference between the classwork tab and the stream tab. So the stream tab is basically what works like a social media feed with the most recent or pinned posts that appear on the stream. Right. And then the classwork tab is where the real, content of your class resides. This is where students will work to turn in assignments and such. Now, they can access those assignments that you post on the stream tab, but in my personal opinion, I believe that the stream tab can be a little bit misleading and a little bit overwhelming. There aren't really the navigation features in the stream tab that we see here in the classwork tab, with there being topics, with you being able to expand to see the full details of the assignment without opening it up. And for you as a teacher, being able to reorganize this stuff on the fly. The stream tab is really kind of limited in terms of what you can see and how you can organize this. Now, if you click the three dots on any given assignment, I might scroll down here to my daily work post, and I can move that to the top. Great. It'll reappear up on the top of the page in just a minute when the stream refreshes. There it is. But that's about all I can do. That's the only way I can reorder things here is by moving them to the top in the right order, one by one, and it's really cumbersome. What I recommend is that you change the default stream view, and I'll show you how to do that. Right now, I've got all the assignment details that are posted with the stream. If I go up here to that settings gear, sorry if I'm moving a little fast, up here in the top right-hand corner and click that settings gear for this classroom, I can scroll down and it says here, classwork on the stream. I have it set to show attachments and details. You have two other options here. One of them is to show condensed notifications, which makes those posts smaller, and I'll show you what that looks like just by clicking save. And then here you go. These are, okay, that's a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit more streamlined. You can still expand these a little bit and open up the assignments by clicking on them, but you kind of get like a general idea of what that looks like. Even more kind of sleek is if you go back into your settings and classwork on the stream, change this to hide notifications. Now, what this does is it changes your layout here. Notice how all my assignments are missing. They're gone. Oh no, they're not really missing. You can still find them in the classwork tab. And then what you've done is you've turned this into like a message board, a way for you to post to your students with either text updates or ways that they can create threads and join discussions. And that really kind of changes the way the stream works. So instead of it being just a second classwork tab, you've now turned it into kind of like a message board and a way for to I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Drawing a blank here. It's a way for you to encourage communication, because that's really all that it turns into, other than having a list of your due dates and stuff over here, which we'll talk about in a little. So play around with your stream and change it to something that makes sense for you. Right? That's the main takeaway there. So keep the stream clean. All right, so now we're going to move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is assigning all work with topics. I love topics. When I was in the classroom, I would figure out new ways to try to use these. There are some extensions you can get to add emojis to your topics and stuff like that. I see that a little bit in elementary classes, but honestly, go to town wherever you want to. So topics are a really great organizational feature of Google Classroom. But there's a couple of different ways that you can use them that you may have not thought of. And if you are already doing this, awesome. You're a rock star. Keep it up and share some new ideas with us. So you can categorize your posts in a couple of ways. You can categorize your post by unit, like I've done here. I've got one unit posted, the rock cycle unit. And if I want to, I can just hit create and then create a new topic, and I can say the water cycle, and it'll post a new topic over there on the left-hand side. Now, I haven't added any assignments to it, and it also shows up in the top. And the way that I've laid out my classroom, I don't necessarily want to keep it up there. So one of the things that's really great about topics is you can, unlike the stream, you can click and drag topics and move them down your page. So this water cycle unit isn't going to happen until after the rock cycle. So I'm going to move that down to the bottom. When it updates down here and everything moves, you'll actually see it changes position here on the left-hand navigation menu, right? And if I had a lot more assignments here, if I click on that, it'll bring me down to that topic only. But there's nothing there, so it's looking kind of blank. So we said that you can categorize your posts by unit. You can drag topics, move them around. And remember also that topic names can be changed, and you can take assignments and move them between topics. Now, why is that important? One of the things that I like to do is make everything that a student needs to do on a day that they log in, put it front and center, right? Have them look in the same place every single day for what that day's assignments are. Now, some teachers do this using Google Slides. They create a new slide and add it to an ongoing presentation, and it shows what the learning goal is. It shows what the assignment for that day is. Timeline schedules for particular days. So I kind of have done something like that here with my topics, where I have a topic that's in the same place every day. It's called daily assignments. And the first thing in that daily assignment is something that walks you through what needs to be done every day. There's a learning goal. And for each of these assignments, those of you that are enrolled in the student view, you can see I put in brackets up at the top that these are examples of particular assignments that are posted in particular formats. And we'll get down to something that might help explain this in a little bit. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But this is an example of an assignment that I would post every single day, right? So daily assignments would go here. Now, underneath that post that includes the date, I've got all of the assignments for that date. But after that date passes, and these are no longer the assignments for Thursday, October the 8th, what I might do is take those and then move them into the unit that they belong, right? So I can just take my exit ticket. I'll put that down at the end. Yeah, there we go. And then my rock cycle diagram, right? So I've got all of this stuff that we went over then in the rock cycle, and I can move it after that day is complete. Now, it might be something you're like, wow, well, I don't necessarily want to move assignments around that much. But the benefit of it is this. Like I said, if you're training your students to look in the same place every single day, they know where to check. And you can and like I said, this is something most of us already do in our classrooms. It's something that'll kind of work in your benefit to, you've got them trained. They've got no reason to say, well, I didn't see the assignment, I didn't know where to look. There were no assignments listed there. And you can even make a new category and say past assignments, and then move those in there. So kind of ending off and rounding out tip 2 is this idea that, like, think about it this way. If everyone on your campus, and this might be, a perfect world, it might be unrealistic, but if everyone on your campus had the same topic on their Google Classroom, across the board, fine arts, or, co-teachers, or, if you're in middle and high school, teachers that teach different subjects that students kind of rotate through on a daily basis. Every single teacher has that daily assignment section. Think about how easy it is going to be for every student to find what they need every single day, right? So just one tip that you can use to maybe kind of get inventive with your categories. And remember that you can move things between categories and easily topics. I keep saying categories. Rename topics as you need to. So that's all stuff that you can kind of play around with. Okay, so moving right along, that brings us to tip number 3. I held up. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is using due dates for every assignment. Every assignment. If a student has to turn it in, if a student has to do something, make sure that you put a due date on it. And there's a couple of reasons for this. There's a couple of really good benefits for adding due dates. First of all, only assignments with due dates will show up in the students' to-do lists and upcoming lists. So if we go back to our stream for a moment, we've got over here on the left-hand side, we've got this due today. There's our daily assignment. There's our exit ticket. There's our Rock Cycle Collaborative group work assignment. If I go to view all as a teacher, I can see the stuff that I am scheduled that I still need to give feedback on, that I still need to grade, and that I need to return to students. This is going to look a little bit different for students, and Dana is going to come in just a moment to show you what the student list looks like. But in terms of the upcoming page, if it doesn't have a due date, it doesn't show up in the upcoming box. There is also when a student joins a Google Classroom with the due date, those assignments automatically show up on their calendar. So it will, and they'll update if you decide to change that due date. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in just a moment. But due dates are a really effective way in terms of keeping students in the know about what assignments are updated, especially if they have, and this is going back to what we discussed at the beginning, turning on the notification that allows them to be reminded of upcoming assignments. If you have due dates, then they'll get that notification saying that an assignment upcoming is due. So when you assign something with a due date, like I have this assigned and it says due today right there, I can actually edit this assignment. And I can decide later on that I want to change this due date. If it's something that, let's say that this was an assignment I had planned, but maybe we got into a really great discussion and I don't quite feel like we're ready for that independent practice, I may change that due date by clicking the X, and then in the dropdown, just changing it to the following day. You can do that, and then you can hit save, and it will automatically update, not only on your classwork tab, but also on the stream if you have that notification there, and then also on the students' to-do lists and calendars. So if your class knows that you stick to those due dates and that something is due in the time that you assign a due date, they know that that their to-do list is updated, that their teachers got things under control, and they've got a system in place, and the kids will quickly learn to respond to those due dates, especially the middle school and high school level. Those elementary school age students will stay on top of it, and more often I find they remind you of a due date if you haven't given them one. So that's just a little reminder. Due dates can be changed, just as you see it here. Now, one thing you got to be careful of is we like to share materials, right? But materials cannot be posted with a due date. So let's say that you've got a Google Classroom question that is accompanied by a separate material that you've posted. It's a story or a news article on Newsella or some other news website that you're having your students go to. If you post that material, like this one here, with no due date, then you will not, that won't show up on the student's to-do list. So they might find that Google Classroom question, or they might find the form assessment, but they might be asking, well, where's the reading? I took the quiz, I just didn't do the reading. So I'd be very careful about posting materials that involve any kind of ask of the students or task that they have to complete in order to do another assignment. And instead use them more for like announcements and supplementary. Hey, if you enjoyed the reading today, check this link out. Stuff that is you want to share, but isn't necessarily dependent upon or tied to a different assignment. So speaking of the materials post, I think Dana is going to join us here for our student view, and she's going to walk you through what some of these assignments look like on the student's end. Dana, how are you doing? How's it feel to be a student for a day?
It feels great. Thank you, Trent. So here I am in the Google Classroom course, and I'm in here as a student. And so what you're seeing here is from the student perspective. And it looks very similar to what Trent was showing you, except that when I click on something, it looks different because, again, I'm in as a student. So Trent into the course, students will submit that work differently. And so if a teacher is creating an assignment, it depends on how the assignment is made, how that student will turn it in. So Trent made this beautiful student view cheat sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. And by the way, this is an example of material, and material is where the teacher adds just content. It's one way from the teacher to the student. There's nothing to submit. And I'm going to view this material, and I'm going to go ahead and open this document so I could show it to you. And when an assignment is made, for example, materials have nothing to turn in. However, if a teacher is creating a quiz assignment or something in a form, a student would turn that in to the teacher by clicking Mark as Done. And it's really helpful if that is identified in the directions, so that when the teacher is creating that particular assignment, it says to mark as done when you are complete with that particular quiz assignment or form. Also, if a teacher is creating an assignment with a sheet or a doc or an attachment where students can view or edit, the student would mark as done for that as well. Now, if a student has a copy, so if the teacher is making a sheet or a doc or an attachment where there is a copy for each student, then from the student perspective, that is where now the student would turn in. So notice how it's different. Sometimes it's mark as done if the student can view or edit, or if there's a copy for each student, it's turn in. And turn in is also for questions. So let me go back to the classroom, and we're going to actually see this in an example. So let me just roll that up, and we are going to, again, I'm in as a student, and I'm going to do this Rock Cycle collaborative group work. So when I click on that, it opens up with the directions, and I'm going to view the assignment. And this is how it looks from the student perspective. And when Trent sent this up, he made it so that students can edit the file. So because students can edit, this is why I see mark as done. So in this example, he created a Google slide deck, and each group has to illustrate our assigned part of the rock cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, which opens the rock cycle slide deck. And one of the things that Trent did, which is an excellent best practice to model, is that he has an example up here. He has the directions, he has an example, but then when you're doing a group activity with students, he already identified which slide for group 1, for group 2, for group 3, and etc. So now as a student, which I am, let's say I'm in group 3, I know that I need to go to group 3, and this is where myself and my friends would type on this particular slide for group 3. So I'm going to go ahead and type in here, and of course this is not correct, but let's pretend like that is something brilliant. Now, this is pretend like it's complete. Now, I don't have my button up here. I have to return back to my Google Classroom tab, which is up here, and then I mark as done. So this is what the students would do. I could also add a comment if I wanted, which would go to my teacher, and a private comment would go privately to my teacher, or I could add a class comment down here, which all of my classmates would see if I chose to do that. So I'm going to mark as done, and it's asking me that I didn't attach work. So your teacher will see that it's done. And I'm going to say, yes, mark as done. And there we go. So that is how it looks like from the perspective of a student. Now, another thing that's important is that when we go back to, let me just go back to the landing page of our Organizing Google Classroom course. As a student, Trent was showing you from the teacher side, but over here, it's really helpful as a student to see what's coming up. So he was talking about those due dates, and it's really helpful that I can see that I have something due today, Thursday, October 8th. I have an exit ticket, and if I click on View All, I can see what's due this week, next week, and later. I can also pull down if I have multiple Google Classroom courses. I can select which one I want to view. I can also see what's missing and what's been done. So that is extremely helpful as I go through all of that. Something else as I go through this list is if I expand, if I wanted to, I can click right here and it takes me to the actual assignment. So I can then click right on the directions. I could click on the attachment and I can see what's going on. Another thing is as I return, not only do we have the to-do list, but I want to go back to the landing page of that course once again. And with those due dates, not only is it here on the stream, but if I go to the classwork tab, there's a few things. I can view my work here as well. So if I click on view your work, I also have a list here, as well as a table of contents of what's assigned, returned, and missing, very similar to what I saw on the stream. I also see that my rock cycle diagram, which I've already submitted, I can see my score, and I can see that my teacher has added a comment. And if I click on this, I can see that Trent already said fantastic work. So yay, I did great work on my Google drawing of the rock cycle. And if I wanted to, I could view the details of that particular assignment as well. So that is extremely helpful. In addition to viewing my work, adding due dates as a teacher is helpful for a student because I can see those due dates on the calendar. Every Google Classroom course automatically comes with a Google Calendar. And as a student, I can click on the Google Calendar right here from the classroom, or I can click on the calendar by if I have the calendar open, or I can click on my app selector and go to the calendar. So there's a few ways to access it. For now, I'm just going to click on it right from here to show you. And let me just turn off my calendar so that you can see right here for October 8th, these are all the assignments that are due today. And then I have some assignments due tomorrow. And these are the assignments for the class that Trent has me in as a student. If I click on that particular item, it tells me the title, I have the directions, I have the links, I have everything I need right here. And if I click on this, it'll take me right to the assignment. I can go to each of these and I can see exactly what it is. In addition, If I go to my menu of calendars on the left side, if I have other calendars, I have Mr. Shoemaker's class, for example. That one at the moment doesn't have any assignments that are due this particular week, but if they were here, I could see them as well. And then they could be color coded. So right now, my organizing Google Classroom course is blue and Mr. Shoemaker's is red. And if I wanted to just change the colors, I could click the ellipse right here, or I call these the blueberries. And when you click that, you can easily change the color. And that way, if a student wanted to differentiate between one class and another, easily that can be done by clicking on the little three dots, the ellipse, and changing the colors. So that's another reason why adding due dates is so helpful, so that the students see on the calendar when things are due. So it populates on the calendar as well as on the stream for what's upcoming, and from the classwork tab, students can view work right there. Trent, is there anything that I missed?
You did a fantastic job of being a student, Dana. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, no, and I think honestly, the bit about the calendar, if you tell the students that they can color code something, some of them that's all they need to hear, right? You know, you get those kids that just love to go in and customize things and stuff like that. So that's a good selling point, and I'm glad you brought it up. All right, awesome. So we are going to move into now tip number 4 for teachers, which is tracking assigned work and using the tabs and the to review list. So we just saw Dana took us into the student view of that upcoming and to-do list. What are things that need to be done on the student's end? What are assignments that need to be turned in? How can I see what's missing and what's been turned in? We do have a feature like that as teachers that shows us what we still need to grade and return and maybe provide feedback on. So that's what our last tips are gonna focus on, is use those tabs, use the to review list to track work that's been assigned to your students, and also as kind of a nudge to you to remind you, like, hey, you still got to get these back to the kids. So I love to-do lists. I think that without them, and having stuff to write down and cross off, I would be a disorganized mess. So if I click from just make sure I'm narrating what I'm doing here. If I click from my Google Classroom stream, because again, this upcoming box does not show up if you click on the classwork tab. If you click on the upcoming box and view all, you can see all the work that you've assigned, including any work that you haven't given a due date. Like I haven't given this rock cycle quiz a due date. So that's going to be something that gets pushed to assigned to my students for tomorrow. Or maybe if I decide, like I said, that I want to change that due date, say, maybe I'll give them a break. Instead of giving them a quiz on a Friday, give them a quiz on a Monday, which honestly, I don't know which is worse. So you can see everything that you need to grade here. And what I've got in one assignment that was just turned in, I can see here, if I just pick one assignment, I see that no students have turned in this first assignment. It's been assigned to 4 of them, and one student completed it, and I graded it and returned it. But we're going to take a look here at the assignment that Dana just turned in, the Rock Cycle Collaborative Group Work. So that's why it tells me that one student has turned it in, because it's one student that's turned it in that I have not yet graded, and 4 students, it's been assigned to them. So if I click on this, I see that there's Dana that's turned it in. And I can click on that and return it to her, and we'll go over the giving feedback in just a minute. But I can click on her score and I can return it to her. And when I do that, it's going to prompt me for a comment, and I can leave a private comment. But for now, I'm just going to click on return. So if the student has an email notification set up, they'll get that notification saying that it's been graded. But if I go back to my Google Classroom and I see that the numbers here have changed. Now let's say I only had that one student that I was waiting on to complete it. All the other students had finished it. What I can do to actually remove this from my to review list is to click on those 3 dots right there after I've reviewed all of the students, and I can say mark as reviewed. And I'm going to tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than crossing something like that off your list, right? It's the end of the day. you're ready to get in your car, go home, spend some time relaxing, hanging out with your family and such. And it's just lovely to be able to cross things off the list and get them out the door and say sayonara. But if you ever need to see that assignment again, it's still going to be in your classwork tab under whichever topic you've organized it under. And it's also still going to be in the top where it says reviewed. So you can see here, here's that assignment that I just reviewed. Now, if I see, oh, wait, there are 4 students that have been assigned this work that never completed it, and I marked it as reviewed, I need to remind myself to do this. So if you click on those 3 dots again, after it's already been sent to reviewed, you can send it to your to review section again by clicking on mark as not reviewed, and it'll remove it from this section. And also, just like Dana brought up, there you can either choose to do all of your a singular class in a to-do list. You can, if you're not afraid of being overwhelmed, you can click on all classes and see what you've got assigned for every single class that you have. But for now, we'll just stick to our organizing Google Classroom section. So you've got that feature. Of course, we already know that we've got that feature in our calendars. You can see what assignments are upcoming and stuff like that for your students. So yeah, this is a really great way to stay organized. I mean, what's more organized than a to-do list, right? Okay, so let's head back to our Google Classroom. The other way that you can track assigned work is by clicking on the grades tab. Now, this will show you what grades you've input and give you kind of an overall, all right, are there any students that I'm missing? Just like a quick shot. And what's really great about this is that if you see the big picture here, you can see any holes that are missing in those grades. The columns here are a little bit wider than what we're probably used to in SIS. So it can just be a really nice way to get an overview and say, okay, well, what's going on here? What have I, or what might I have missed? And it's also a really good way to track your students' progress with particular units or particular skills. If you know that a couple of assignments are related, you compare scores between the two, try to get that really quick snapshot of student growth. So it's just one of those things that, it works very similar to our gradebook, but it can be used to kind of look at the overall, all right, are there any students I've missed, especially if I've moved them to the mark as reviewed? Maybe there was one that I forgot or something like that. So there you go. 2 different ways to track student work. All right. So now we've got tip number 5, which is the last major tip that we're going over today, which is providing feedback using both private and class comments. So provide feedback using private and class comments. So we know when I turned in that assignment that Dana had completed, there was a little box that prompted me. I could give her feedback on that specific assignment, which is really useful. Now, some assignments aren't necessarily going to necessitate comments on every single assignment, right? So there's a couple ways you can do that. But let's say that I wanted to leave Dana a comment here. But I didn't leave a comment originally when I posted the or when I sent the grade back. You can add a comment by clicking right here at the very bottom, add a private comment. If you were to do it when you were prompted as you entered in that grade, it would end up going to the same place as using this box down on the bottom. So add a private comment. Fantastic job. Great work. Right. And obviously we want to get a little bit more descriptive with some of our comments, but you get the gist. So if I were to add that in, it would go into the same exact spot. Now, this is a really great way. I know that many of us use the comment bank feature in Google Docs, for example, when we're returning work, and that gives us, feedback that we can comment on particular parts of the assignment. I find that private comments are really great for giving kind of an overall idea. You can get specific about, things that the student did really well or one major thing that the student might need to work on. But that's, on a student-to-student basis. No one can see this except you and the student. And if they have their email notifications on, they'll get an email saying that you left this feedback, which is fantastic. It prompts them. Oftentimes, a student will get an email. They'll say, what assignment was this on? Because even though the assignment title is right there, they still have got questions. They go in And what I've caught students doing in class when we were in brick and mortar, I'd be working on sending private comments and stuff like that on assignments. The student will go in, open up the assignment, and if it's a really glowing comment that you've left, they'll open it up and they'll look it over. They'll want to know what they did so great, because our students are like that. A lot of them are motivated by that positive feedback, and a lot of them are also motivated by, hey, you did a great job, but here's what you can do better, and that prescriptive, specific feedback that you've left in the document itself. So the private comments are a really great way to do that. We all know that. One thing that is it might be a new tip, I'm not sure. It depends on the way that you do things. I'm going to go into my classwork tab, and I am going to pick this assignment here, the Rock Cycle Collaborative Group Work. Now, what I can do on this is I can add a comment to the whole class on the assignment. So if you go into view assignment, like we said, there's that, you can click on individual students and you leave them a comment. But if you have your in the stream tab, you can see it with the if you've got those notifications, sorry, not the condensed notifications, but the full assignment details. Let me show you that. Or actually, you could do it from this side too. Let me go to change this back for a moment. Instead of condensed, I want to show attachment and details. All right, so now you see on this that there's a little space here to add a class comment. And I think that this can be a really great feature for giving feedback that you want to address that are large-scale issues, right? Because if you're not using the comment bank and you find a lot of your students are making the same mistakes, or they're doing really well with a skill that you anticipated them having trouble with, this is a really great venue to celebrate both individual successes and provide that overall group feedback to say, hey guys, something that we really need to watch out for, because I saw it more than once, was X, Y, and Z. So if I were to leave a comment here, great job with point A, especially Dana and John. I'm using this as an opportunity to give shout out, kudos to a couple of my students, and then also use it as an opportunity to tell them to watch out for some tricky things with point B. Some of us didn't elaborate. Oh, my English teacher here, shame me. As well as we could have. And so there you go. Not the most eloquent comment, but a comment nonetheless. Now, all students in the class can see this comment because I posted it as a class comment. So yeah, we know that class comments are there. We know the private comments are there. But honestly, I think that this is something that is not often used to its full extent, right? We might, add overall attachments or comments on assignments to clarify, but you can use them as a really good opportunity to give that whole group feedback. Say, hey, we all did really well with this, and then also use it as an opportunity to give kudos to particular students. In a virtual setting, sometimes it's not as easy to pinpoint excellent work from individual students because we're not all in the same place at the same time in some cases. But there it is. It's in writing. That student's going to go back and look at their name there. They're going to smirk whether they want to, let you know or not. But it's just a really great way to give overall group feedback in addition to the stuff that you're doing in the private comments and, on the individual assignments themselves. So with that, one really great thing to point out here is that it's important, again, relating back to earlier when we said turn on those notifications. If they have those notifications on, they're going to see these comments, these overall comments, in addition to the private comments, in addition to when you turn back in their work to them. So it's really important that they turn those on because there's a lot of these tips that kind of hinge upon them being connected to the classroom, getting them in the habit of checking their email and making sure that they enable their notifications in classroom so that they're seeing that communication from you. So, just bringing that back to, full circle. And kind of the last point I want to make is again going back to that idea that it may not be right for every school campus, because we know that these schools are kind of their own microcultures of the way that schools do things. But if there's a group of leads on a campus, whether it's trailblazers or just teachers that want to take the initiative to come up with some kind of recommended organization plan for a particular, for the way that your school runs things, share it with your teachers, see if it's something you can all agree on. Because the more uniform that everyone on a campus is using Google Classroom, the easier time the students are going to have navigating it, the easier time the teachers are going to be able to support each other in terms of helping one another do certain things and make their classrooms look pretty similar. So if I have one parting piece of advice, it's that consider coming up with something that works for your campus on a school-wide level. We know that people are going to want to do their own things, and that's great, be an innovative educator and stuff like that. But it might be something that is beneficial for some of your you or possibly some of your colleagues. So just something to think about. And with that wraps up our 5 tips for organizing Google Classroom. And back with us, we have our star student Dana bringing us home.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to wrap it up, and we are here to support you. We are still hosting virtual office hours on Tuesdays from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. So if you would like to join us, we have the links on our calendar org, and it's a great way for you to join us. You can ask your questions. We very often will share screens and walk you through whatever it is that you need support with. Our whole ed tech team is on the line, so no matter what your question is, we will do our best to answer. And if we don't know the answer, we will put you in touch with someone that does know the answer. So please join us for virtual office hours on Tuesdays. Next week, we are also hosting on Wednesday our next live session. It is Fun Formative Assessment in Smart Learning Suite Online, Wednesday at 3 p.m. So we hope to see you there. Again, the link for that is on the calendar at edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. And we are meeting the needs of what you are looking for. So next week, be on the lookout for a new Google Meet video. Google has lots of updates on Google Meet, and we are keeping up with the times. So our team will be producing a new video with the updates of Google Meet coming soon, along with any other requests. So if there's a particular educational technology application that you are curious about, please email us and let us know, and we will do our best to schedule a live stream about it. And on behalf of the entire educational technology training team, we thank you for joining us. We thank you for all of your hard work and dedication. And we know that you have been working 10, 12, 14-hour days to get our students and our community and everything back on track. And we really are so grateful for all of your efforts. And Trent, I'm going to let you end it.
Dana, I don't think I could say it any better than that. Thank you so much for being here and for allowing us to support you. And as always, don't feel free to reach out. We're here to help you. Thanks.
Have a good day.